Another day in,
Another day, another Doug.
yes, that sounds about right. Another day, another whatever you just said.
That's it.
You know what goes great with cookies? Justice. Do you remember that? Do you
Yeah.
remember that?
Max, what do you want for dinner? Justice.
I love that. Ooh, do you want some milk with your cookies? You know what goes great with cookies? Justice.
Justice. Hit it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another excitable adventure with your favorite hosts of the Sanctum Sanctorum Podcast, where comics and Christ culture collide. I am Chris.
And this is Sparta. I'm Joey.
You know, I had my son saying that yesterday because he has a habit of like finding a thing or finding, usually it's an animal, and he'll go, "This is," meaning he wants, like, he either wants you to say it so he knows or he wants to tell you what it is. So I kept saying, "This is Sparta." And then he would go, "No, this is moose. This is Sparta. This is fork."
That is just good parenting right there.
Just right. I'm a model for what parenting should be when you're both a geek and a dad.
You should write the book. I'd read that. I'd read your thoughts on parenting.
Geek dad wisdom.
Geek Dad meets Sparta.
Spartan dad for geeks.
Today we are covering something interesting.
Something animated.
Something animated. We're going back into our childhood, covering Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker. And before we dive into it, Chris, you got a comic culture moment for us?
You know what? I do.
Shocker.
Since we are a show that does comic book movies, and today we're doing an animated movie, I thought we could talk about what is better for the medium. Do we think animation serves the medium of comic book movies better? Or do we think live action? So it's not just what you prefer, but what do you think is better serving the characters, the stories, the adventures, whatever? So do you want to kick us off with that, or I have some thoughts?
Sure. I think it depends on the story. And I know that's sort of a cliche at this point, but it's like, well, you kind of can't tell certain stories with such fantastical elements. Now, we've gotten into an amazing run of CGI and the artists within that. But I believe, correct me where I'm wrong, you're talking about cartoons
I'm
when you talk
talking
about
about
animation.
I'm talking about like the movie that we're doing today versus, Batman 89 or something like that.
Right. So the difference between live actors in front of a camera versus digital creations on a computer.
Yes.
Okay. I prefer the digital creations on a computer, and I think given the stories, the worlds, the suspension of disbelief, I think animation actually works better. I don't need to see a real live interpretation of a lot of these things because a lot of its source material is comics, hand drawn art. So to see it come to life is cool. But I think, and maybe this is a handicap, maybe this is just a flaw. But my first interaction with a lot of this stuff was Saturday morning cartoons. So
Mhm.
I don't need Christian Bale in a batsuit. It's great and I like it. But I think a lot of this just works better when it's reflecting its true origin form. What do you think?
I would agree with you 100%. I would
There we go.
prefer everything to be animated. Listen, do I love the MCU and the DCEU and the things we've gotten before, the things that I'm looking forward to? Absolutely. But I think overall, because you're making these shared worlds that limits you. Budgetary, the expense of paying for effects, paying the actors, paying for locations, paying for crew, and all that stuff that limits, what you can do, and it costs insane amounts of money. I think also some of the more, I don't want to say silly because I don't think they're silly, but some of the more out there things in comics, some of the more out there stories you could tell with some of the things that these characters have gone through, I think you'll have an easier time buying it with animation than you will live action, because we're used to live action movies reflecting us. Animation, we're just there for the ride. We're just there for the fun. Even if it's something ridiculous, it's like, well, it's a cartoon. It could be ridiculous. That's fine. So I think that, while I like movies like Captain America Civil War, while I like movies like the Justice League and things like that, I think that animation, you're less limited, you'll save money, you can pump out more of them more often. And as we saw with the DC animated universe, you have the Bruce Timm universe, you have the New 52 universe, you have the Tomorrowverse. You can still do these kinds of shared storytelling without it like really bogging you down so much. People aren't going to mind as much. You could even change the voice actors and people aren't going to notice as much as if you had a new actor play Captain America or a new actor playing Batman in the middle of a thing, like we're seeing now with the DCEU versus the James Gunn DCU. So I think that animation is a superior way to tell some of the more crazy stories, also without having to compromise those stories.
I agree. I think you get the longevity out of it. I think you can get consistency, and
You can introduce new generations to it earlier also.
exactly. And then it's not so dated, like you sort of look at animation now versus the 90s, and yeah, you can tell that, we've made some advancements. Obviously, we're using some computer generated graphics and all of that, but a cartoon is a cartoon. It's more about the style with which you create it. You can't watch Jaws and then watch The Batman and tell me that there hasn't been a massive leap in quality of cameras.
And for animation, sometimes animation stands the test of time much, much better than live action film.
Agreed. I mean, you watch The Little Mermaid, the way that it was originally hand drawn frame by frame. There's some warmth. It's similar. We've talked about this on the show before. It's similar to vinyl records versus digital music.
Yeah.
There's just a warmth that comes to it. There's a humanity behind it. And I think a lot of these cartoons, so to speak, these animated versions of comics have a warmth behind them that if you're just sort of pumping it out with a body, yeah, sure, there's attention to detail in the costumes and the dialogue and all of that. But why were they created? They were created to be comics.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, there's a place for it, but I also think that we shouldn't just throw the baby out with the bathwater just because we've got advancements in technology.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. And I think that the animated stuff that they're doing can stand on its own. I think it can be separate from, the live action things, and, give it another medium with which people can enjoy these stories, enjoy these characters. And, as we're going to see today, a lot of times they really can hold up and they really can still be as fun and exciting as they were when you first saw them as a kid.
Totally.
So.
But audience, let us know what you think. Drop us a comment on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and let us know whether you like live action or animated comics.
Or both. Or, I mean, if you like neither, then you're probably not watching this show, so you don't have to tell us that. Yeah.
You're in the wrong spot. I got a plot synopsis.
Oh, boy. I am excited to hear this one. I'm sure there's lots of poking fun at this.
There is.
All right, go for it.
Cue the animated music.
Do-do-do-do.
Here we go. In the distant future, Gotham has new flying cars, neon skyscrapers, and apparently the same old clown problem. Bruce Wayne is old, cranky, and yelling at clouds as his new protege, Terry McGinnis, is armed with gadgets, teen angst, and a questionable work-life balance. Out of nowhere, the Joker returns. You know, the guy who was last seen very, very, very dead. But in Gotham, death is more like a suggestion than a guarantee. Now back from the grave, or maybe hiding on a thumb drive, more than just Gotham hangs in the balance, while Joker plays with immortality, teen trauma, and uniting animated universes. Can Terry save the soul of Gotham from this never-ending joke, or will a menacing malware give the final punchline? Experience flashbacks that are darker than your high school days in the 2000s animated film Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker, because the past has a way of haunting you, especially when it installs spyware on your brain. Dun dun dun.
Nicely done. That was pretty good.
I would like to point something out.
Go ahead.
This is now episode 27,
Okay.
and every time I do dun dun dun, there's no music. That is done in post. I add that afterwards.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
I don't know why, but every time I finish, I know exactly where to start it musically. Like I've reset my brain to make a bad plot and then get right on key. Like I can hear it in my head. And I just don't get any appreciation for that, and I'd like to point it out.
You're wonderful.
Thank you.
What an amazing god of music.
What an amazing human you am. There are
some people in this movie.
Things, but tell us about the people in the movie.
In this movie. Well, as we said, we are doing Batman Beyond: The Return of the Joker, and it stars a returning Mark Hamill, Kevin Conroy, Will Friedle, Melissa Joan Hart, Michael Rosenbaum, and Angie Harmon. And some of those names have been in other things you may know. Will Friedle, famous for Boy Meets World, Melissa Joan Hart, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Michael Rosenbaum, who does the voice of Ghoul, who is the pumpkin-looking Jokers,
or as I call him, Christopher Walken Scarecrow.
Yeah, so that's the thing that he enjoyed doing, was he did a Christopher Walken impersonation for that character, but he is most known for being Lex Luthor in Smallville.
There he is.
So a little bit of stuff there. Now, do you have a history with this movie? I have a very specific history with it.
Batman Beyond.
Okay.
Maybe not this movie. Batman Beyond was always at 3:30 on Channel 11, the WB.
Yep.
And I would get home from school and I would turn it on.
Listen, I'm in the same boat, but
it's my history.
When this came out, my history. So I love Batman Beyond. I remember the Sunday night that it premiered, the 45-minute premiere, the first episode. Oh my God, I was blown away because I loved Batman the Animated Series, and I loved the Justice League cartoon, and I loved Superman the Animated Series, Static Shock, all the things that exist in this universe.
Static Shock.
But I received one Easter morning in an Easter basket that my mom made. I got a VHS copy of Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. I watched this so many times that I wore the tape out.
Of course you did.
Loved it. I loved every second of it. I have it memorized almost. Yeah, it's been a number of years now, but
interesting.
Yeah, this is. I mean, Batman Beyond is one of the best cartoons ever. It was such a fun thing.
Given your love for it, why don't you kick us off with some good stuff?
I will kick us off with some good stuff. I love the look of Neo Gotham. I love the look. I love the whole vibe of everything. I love the new bat suit. You know, the black bodysuit with the big red bat, the little wings. I think that Batman looks cool. I like the look of the Joker with the kind of purple bodysuit, the slick back hair. I think he looks really cool. I think it's a different kind of menacing than the the purple traditional suit. So I really like all that. I think the flashback to Batman the Animated Series, that whole sequence is excellent. Now we know that this is, future Batman. We know this carries on from that series. But that having been off the air for a while before this premiered, it was nice to kind of revisit that look of the animation, that, you know, those costumes in that world. I thought was really cool.
Totally.
We open up with a great action sequence. It goes hard right from the start. You know, Batman interrupts this new Joker's gang trying to steal this big tech stuff, and it's great. It's a fun action sequence, and I like that they
Yeah,
just jump
you
right
really
into it.
dive right in. Yeah.
There's no setup. You're not, being given, here's everything you need to know before you watch this. It's like, we're assuming that you've seen all the stuff you need, so here we go.
What I liked about that is like it's talking to the fans.
Mm-hmm.
It assumes you're watching this, you
You know
know.
what's up here. You know what's going on.
Yep.
Again, the animation style, I would say I'm hard pressed to find something that beats the Bruce Timm universe of animation. Like we mentioned those shows that before and the couple of movies that are within that universe. It's just, wow. The Batcave. Now, obviously, you see more of this if you watch the show. You get little glimpses of it in the movie here. I love all of the trophies that he has. So we're used to some of the trophies, like the giant robot dinosaur, the giant penny, the giant Joker card. But if you look, you also see things like Mr. Freeze's gun in a display case, the Scarface dummy that the ventriloquist used. You see Harley Quinn's mask and headpiece. And I like all that stuff. Like, I think all that stuff is really fun and really cool and nice little throwbacks. Bruce's Joker laugh when he gets hit with the gas and Terry finds him and he like turns him over and he's got that big that is a startling scene
Yes.
for being animated. It's like it's very unsettling looking, and they do a really great job of making you feel uncomfortable with how it was drawn, and I think that adds to the impact of it. I like that Bruce gets angry. I like and I don't like the fact that Bruce gets angry about having had so many young partners. Um, when he is trying to save Terry and is like, stupid kid, you don't know what you want. Never, none of you ever knew what you wanted. So on the one hand, I'm like, okay, you kind of roped them into this so that they didn't walk down the same darkness that you have. But I also can see how, like, on, in your old age, maybe reflecting back, it's like, you put a lot of these kids in danger, if you know your Batman history, you know what happened to Jason Todd. In this universe, we see what happened to Tim Drake. Even just the falling out that he had with Dick Grayson. So you see kind of
Right.
the impact that it's had on the different Robins and why it can be so maybe post Batman. It's very devastating for Bruce to see kind of what he did to these young kids by training them and putting them in these situations so early. I like that it's more adult. So
Definitely dark.
if you watch the uncut version, one of the Jokers is killed in the very beginning by the Joker. The Joker gets seemingly killed by Tim Drake. There's blood. There's knife. There's a knife fight, and it's a very, very adult movie for this universe that it's set in, and I really like that. And I also like that the Joker goes toe to toe with Batman in this. In the end fight scene, like he's really holding his own against Terry, and I always thought that he should be able to. It shouldn't just be like he should know how to fight, and be dirty about it, like like fight dirty. But I always thought the Joker should know how to fight, and I think you see more of that in this, and I really appreciate that. And then the last thing I have that really stood out to me is they were able to bring Arlene Sorkin back to do the voice of Harley Quinn in the flashback. We had Kevin Conroy,
Mm-hmm.
we had Mark Hamill, and the other voices that are standard for Batman Beyond, but she wasn't in Batman Beyond, and I'm glad that they were able to bring her back and didn't replace her like they did later on. So
It's awesome.
that is all my good stuff.
I got a few other things that you did not cover. I think the soundtrack is awesome.
Static X,
It's
man.
very dated for 2000.
It's that new metal sound. They have a Static X
Yes,
is doing a lot of the soundtrack is good stuff.
it's so cool.
That club scene too, the song during the club scene when he takes Dana out dancing,
Yeah,
that's a great song.
I thought it had a really strong plot. Like story wise, it was well developed. Um, Overall, got some issues here and there, but overall, really strong
Absolutely.
plot. Um, I thought that it cemented Batman Beyond in the timeline as more than just a spin-off from the animated series. Like this gave it its own right. And I like that it was tied canonically to the animated series.
And I think the flashback really helped with that.
Yeah. Um there's a lot of foreshadowing in here, which I really liked. Um you see the ventriloquist, you see Two-Face and the illusion of being hit with two personalities, but one body. There's a lot of like the overall reveal at the end. When you look back and you watch it again, you're like, oh, I see what you're setting up. And they had a lot of
Mm,
it, which I thought was unusual for an animated feature film. But they did that really well. And looking back on it, it was pretty cool.
yeah.
It deals with some serious issues like identity, trauma, past. It's like this is a kids cartoon. Like okay, cool. Like it spoke to me as a 30-something-year-old adult now. And I remember watching it as a kid when it came out in 2000 and I was like, okay, it was good, but then you look back and you're like, man, there's some real layers in here.
Hmm.
The line pathetic shows up multiple times and it's called back over and over again and I really like that.
Hmm.
And the last thing I like is that the payoff with the same gun being used actually shows you that it's Tim the whole time. And what I mean by that is in the beginning when Joker kills the goon, he's using a specific gun.
Right, the bang gun.
The bang gun, right? Later on when you get the flashback scene, that is what quote kills the Joker. It's that bang gun. And then ultimately at the end, it's the same gun showing you that Tim was the one who had it in the first place. And I thought
Hmm.
that was really cool.
I didn't really put that together. That is really cool.
That's kind of it. Everything else, I mean, overall, the thing holds up 25 years
Abs-
later. Like, it's still a great movie.
Absolutely. It is a great movie. Um, do you have any other stuff?
I do.
Do you want to hit it?
Yes. There is a classic DC laser beam going through the city.
I have that under my bed. This is the
Like,
Sky Beam.
the Skybeam's back. Must be a DC film.
It's time to stop!
Oh
It's
boy.
not bad. It's not good. It's just, oh, here we go.
Oh, I have that in
Um,
my bed because it was. But to be fair, it also came before all the other Sky Beams, so it's kind of standard. We didn't have it before that, so this kind of
yeah.
set it up.
This was actually pretty controversial due to 2000's Columbine shooting. And, again, in the year 2000, I was 10, 11, something like that. And so I
I
sort
was
of missed all of that.
14.
But looking back, like this one actually created some tension. Um, and we've talked about that on the show. Is it a comic book movie's role to speak to culture? Um, is it other? All of that. Again, not a good thing, not a bad thing. It's more like, just be aware of the times that you find yourself in, and sometimes that's outside of your control. But looking back, not being as in the geek world as I am now, this one actually was pretty controversial at the time.
Hmm.
That's all my other.
My other is I like the Joker's gang, which were introduced in the first episode of the show, and they showed up periodically as just this, a very widespread, like different cells of a larger gang that just emulated the Joker. And we have a very specific Joker gang that we focus on for this movie. Um, and I just thought it was interesting how ready and willing to kill they were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you see now, I know the show was different than this movie. There were different, things they were allowed and not allowed to do. But the Joker gang had no problem being menacing, no problem, stealing, destruction of property, maybe even beating somebody up. But the fact that, they find, Terry and Dana in the club, and they find Bruce at one point, and they're like, boss man says you gotta go, so they just immediately try to kill them. It's like, wow, this went like they went from like we're stealing to we're murdering really quickly. It just seemed like an odd jump. I didn't dislike it. It just is a surprising thing. Like these
Sure.
kids essentially are ready to, go, cross that line. The other thing I really like is the slang that they invented for Batman Beyond. So you have words like a dreg is like a loser, to slag somebody means to hurt them. Shway is something that's really cool. I really like when a show or a movie or something is set in the future and they give it enough of a show that you can see how language has developed within that world. You can see how fashion has developed within that world, and I really like that they didn't need to do that, but they took the time to they didn't do it all the time, but they peppered it in a couple of slang words that mostly only the kids use, and I really appreciate that because I think that that's a fun little thing to be like, oh, I understand what those words mean, but this is something that like my grandchildren would use as slang words. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I like that. I thought I think that's a fun little thing to add in that you didn't have to, and that just shows a little bit of care and effort to put in there.
That's fun.
It is.
Well, we're going to take a break. We're going to hear from our sponsor of this episode today, and we're going to be back in a flash, Gordon.
If you want to live forever, you have options. You could freeze your brain, donate your body to science, or hope that your descendants don't eventually forget who you are. Or you could sign up with Joker Tech. At Joker Tech, you'll have the opportunity to take over someone else's body so you can live well into the future, long past when you should have. Just implant our patented smiley chips into your unexpected victim or customer, and voila, instant eternity. Don't ask us how the science works, because we don't really understand it either. But we're happy to serve whatever your eternal needs might be here at Joker Tech. Joker Tech, you'll be wearing a smile forever.
I wanted to be mad at you, and then you made me laugh.
It was good. It was good.
I'm going to give you a Nicholson plus.
Here.
Because it was good. Not great, but
it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't
good.
My favorite either, but it was okay. I couldn't come up with a better
Very
name
good.
than Joker Tech to kind of go with
But
that.
whatever your eternal needs are, that's where I broke.
Actually, my favorite part is take over your unsuspecting victim and voila, instant eternity.
Instant eternity. I mean, customer. Yeah. Hey, Joker Tech, thanks for sponsoring this episode. And as always, not a real product.
But wouldn't it be cool?
It perfectly sets up the bad stuff in this movie. Can I go first? Please, can I go first? Please.
All right, you can go first, but there's something that I want to talk about that I just hope you don't have. So you go first. Ooh. But I'm gonna jump in if you bring up whatever this is.
That's fine. That actually puts a lot of pressure on me to make sure I don't have it.
All right.
Let's see. You just covered it in the ad, but the Joker return thing, resurrection via USB stick. That's dumb.
But here's why.
Here's why it's dumb. Because you've got a world filled with Lazarus pits and dark magic. But no, the clown prince of crime comes back via a microchip. What?
Here's why I do and don't mind that. I think it's ridiculous that he comes back via a microchip and that it transforms his body to look like the Joker. That is what doesn't make sense to me. If all it did was like take over his brain and it was a second personality, and you
Mm-hmm.
saw Tim, or even Tim with like the makeup on, then that's fine. Like the Joker's brain is in a new body. Totally fine with
Sure.
that. But the fact that it transforms this kind of short, overweight old guy into this tall, lanky, completely different features, completely different hair, completely different everything just seems stupid. And
Gotham's greatest villain basically turns into malware.
I mean, yeah, but again, if it was
Mm-mm-mm.
just mental, and like you said, it was two personalities in one body, two personalities in one body, I'd be
Yeah.
fine. But it's the fact that it transforms his whole body that doesn't make any sense.
You liked the Joker's gang? I didn't.
I
I
do.
felt like I never feel like they're a legitimate menace compared to the Joker himself, particularly because of how cowering they are around him. I would have liked if one of them actually challenged him and then you saw why he was still the Joker, why he still had it. I know he shot one, but
Well, I
everybody
mean, yeah,
else just,
somebody did challenge him when he's like, even if you are who you say you are, and frankly, I think you're a joke.
you know what? You're right. How much more development of that can I ask for? I
I
take
mean,
it back.
do you need all of them to be like, yeah, that's right?
Yeah, I just would have liked a little bit more pushback. Because it was just sort of the one, and then it was like, okay, you're gone. Everybody good, and everybody's like, yep, we're fine. But I would have liked a little bit more. No, we were fine before you showed up, old man, and all of us were doing great. But now you're here, and we got to take orders from you. I just would have liked a little bit more, but you make the point.
But with that, I think that that's also why this gang of jokers being so willing to kill is weird for me, because they seem to be very uncomfortable with the fact that the Joker just killed Bonk,
Yeah,
and they're like kind of afraid of him. They're cowering a little bit, but then they're like, "Wait, no, we're ready to take some lives too."
they probably killed him because his name was Bonk.
All those Joker kids have names. It's Bonk, Chucko, Dee Dee, Woof, and Ghoul.
And isn't Dee Dee Harley's granddaughters?
Yep.
That's fun. I felt like the pacing dragged a little bit. It was a little slow in spots.
Hmm.
And because of the slowness of it, I actually felt like, although I loved it, the flashback scene is just exposition dump. You need it, I get it, and I really like it. But when you're talking about pacing, I felt like that one in particular was way longer than your class. Like they could have sped that one up a lot more and probably left a lot of it out of it so that it wasn't so clear that it was Tim at the end. I felt like they gave that away way too early.
Hmm.
That's
Okay.
just me. Joker's plan, what's the word? Sucks? This is basically where Rise of Skywalker took its cue from.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Somehow Palpatine returned. Somehow the Joker returned.
Science.
Science. Stupid. Oh, and speaking of science, I'm so glad that Bruce just had the Joker antitoxin.
Well, it showed him. It showed him making it. He knows how to make it. He's the one who invented it.
Conveniently. I felt like Drake's arc, like, yeah, there's a traumatic backstory, yes, but then he basically disappears into retirement until it's convenient for the plot. Like, I get it, but he was used. There wasn't like oh yeah, we had an ongoing developing relationship and we kept tabs on him. Like, no, he just disappeared. Now he's back. Oh, convenient. That was just me.
Yeah.
Very whiplashy tone. Like it swings from Saturday morning cartoon hijinks with the opening to graphic child torture and flashbacks. That is not edgy. That is tonal whiplash. It is disconnected. And this was marketed as a kid's film.
He died? And this is supposed to be a kid's movie.
But the themes include torture and death and body horror possession. Like, let's call it what it is. Like, this is not Saturday morning cartoon fare. Like, this is
Well, that's
intense.
why that's why they didn't air it on Saturday morning. That's
And
why
so
it
it
was
just
its own thing.
It just Whiplash is a little bit like there's not a slow progression into its own thing. It's like, well, this is general audience and this is rated R.
Yeah, pretty much.
I know it's not his story, but I feel like there's a little depth to Bruce. I feel like there could have been more. But I also understand we've got an entire animated series that we're connecting this to, so we don't have time and we don't have need to really dive into him. But if you don't know who he is and you didn't watch the animated series, he's a very flat character.
But why are you watching this if you haven't seen the animated series? That
I don't know.
seems...
Why did people watch Deadpool and Wolverine without watching the other two?
It just, that feels like a you problem if you didn't do any of your research.
Bro, I have so many problems, and this is one of them. The Justice League doesn't show up? Like, this seems a little like call
Like the Batman Beyond Justice League?
Yeah. They don't show?
They're only in like 2 episodes, and I'm not
Everybody's
even sure...
on their own.
I'm not even sure if they were around when this takes place in the Batman Beyond timeline. I'm not sure if they had been introduced yet in the show.
Yeah. Last 2 things, and both involve Terry. Terry as Batman, he's Batman, but he relies on Bruce telling him what to do basically the entire movie until the final fight.
I mean, yeah.
And I get he's the protege, but he's the one in the suit. And he doesn't own that until literally the final fight. Now...
But it's like Bruce is like his guy in the chair.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'd want more from Batman. You're going to put on that cowl, you got to own it a little bit. And I felt like he didn't do that until the last 10 minutes.
No, that's fair. I think that's fair.
And my last thing. I'll talk about this in my spiritual stuff, but Terry basically taunts the Joker into malfunctioning. He roasts him into a rage quit. And so Gotham, and this is sort of funny, but Gotham is saved by open mic night and the Joker's insecurity?
No, you're right. It's a little weird.
That's all I got.
All right, well, you didn't take the thing that
Yes!
I wanted. Well, my 2 main things, one of them was the science of the Joker taking over Tim, and we talked about that. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
What's the big one?
Well, I'm going to save the big one for the end, because my other bad stuff is just a couple little things.
All right.
Do you feel like Terry speaks weird? Like, the way that he speaks is very strange for a teenager?
Yeah, he dabbles between 20-something and teenager. He's not a kid.
It's odd. Like, someone he's like, I've been making up for past sins, to say nothing of my old man, to say nothing of breaking my folks' hearts. And it's like, this feels a little like you're trying to be a little Shakespearean here, but this seems a little too advanced in the way that he would, defend himself here and whatever. So I didn't love that.
Agreed.
I also hate the line when he comes back from after you see the Joker first appear and he blows up like that balcony party and gets away because Terry saves the 2 people falling. He gets back to the cave and he's like, I know what you're thinking. I messed up. I let the clown get away so I could save those people. In what world do you think that Bruce would be like, yeah, you really should have let those people fall to their death so you could stop that bad guy? Like,
well, that's an interesting thought process to dive into, because his assumption is one version of Bruce and he's apologizing for what he thinks Bruce would want him to do, where at the same time he actually doesn't know him at all.
I understand, but what evidence do you have? Like, Batman is a legacy character in this series. Like the legend of Batman has lived on through to the future, the future that they're in. So what in that history makes you think that Batman would have sacrificed saving someone falling to their death just to catch the bad guy?
Normally, I would say you're right. But when it's Joker, the rules don't apply. And I think that's probably a caught thing. I think that's hey, I understand that this is the nemesis, that this is the one thorn in your side that you can't get rid of and you refuse to kill. Therefore, everything is off the table when it comes to Joker. I failed because I tried to save the people. And he's like, no, you did the right thing. And so there's the disconnect, but you're also dealing with somebody's main trauma thing. And
I
the
guess.
rules don't apply. So I think that is interesting.
All right. I have one more little thing. It's a stupid thing. Like, this was made by Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers also owns the Looney Tunes. I hate that they have Ace laying there watching this weird old Bugs Bunny cartoon. And I
Yeah.
feel like it goes on. Like, why did you show a whole clip of it? And it
A
goes on
long
too long.
time.
I've hated that since I first saw it. It was like, this pulls me right out of the story here. This pulls
I'm
me
not in
right
the
out of this
universe
like
anymore.
major plot point that just happened of, is Bruce gonna survive? He was attacked by the Joker, the dog is hurt, Joker knows who he is, broke in, all this stuff. Like, what a big moment here. And now you have Bugs Bunny laying dead on a giant piece of bread underwater. Seems weird. And it
It is
really
weird.
just pulls me right out every time. It's just, it just don't need it. All right, here's the big one.
Okie dokie. Buckle up.
In Batman lore, but it's, even in the Batman animated series, in the New Adventures of Batman, the Joker is Batman's arch nemesis.
Yes.
He is the antithesis of Batman. He has wreaked havoc and murder for years and years and years and years. And nobody, like Terry, doesn't know who he is. And he says to Bruce, you've talked about all your other major villains, but you've never mentioned him. He's never mentioned the Joker.
I would
But
have started with the Joker.
even if he's never mentioned the Joker, again, as the new Batman, how do you not have knowledge of the greatest villain that Gotham has ever seen, the most devastating villain that has ever played Gotham? How do you not,
Right.
why is he this unknown character? Because even the news anchors at one point are like, a man dressed as the legendary Joker, was seen doing blah blah blah, and it's like,
Right.
why?
This is a cultural phenomenon. You're acting as though Bruce Wayne has been gatekeeping this behind the Batman persona, and if only you apprentice under him, then you'll be let into the lore of who the Joker is. It's like the town is marred by this individual.
I feel like it's like going into some kind of law enforcement and having never heard of Ted Bundy or the Unabomber
Yeah.
or the Columbine shooting or these major
The
events.
town is marred by this clown.
It's they go hand in hand. Like this should be common knowledge when your main job is crime fighting. So
That's
that
it.
has always bothered me. It's like, how do you not know? And it's not like it's been 200 years. It's been 1.5 generations. Like, he's as old as your
Right.
grandfather would be.
What did he say?
20 years max.
I've learned about World War II from my grandfather. But I would have heard of it if he never mentioned it. And I would never go to him and be like, how come you never told me there was this giant war in the 40s that you fought in that, devastated half the world?
That would be like saying, I've heard about all the other adversaries, but you never mentioned Hitler.
Right, exactly. That's
What?
exactly it. That's exactly it. Just don't like that.
Oh, boy.
Speaking of that, though, and even, if you can find it, pulling it up here would be really cool. But there's this very infamous panel of when they did Marvel versus DC, and the Red Skull meets the Joker. And the Joker says something where it's like, "You're a Nazi? I may be a homicidal maniac, but I'm an American one." And he doesn't get along with him at all and wants to get rid of him. I'm like, see, even the Joker knows that that's all horrible and messed up.
Even the Joker gets it. Maybe the Joker has a conscience guided by spirituality.
Maybe.
That's my segue.
Oh,
I got a spiritual thought here.
Why don't you kick us off then, sir?
Like I said to you, off mic, I got to build this case a little bit. So,
Okay.
most surprising moment of the entire film is when Terry realizes in the last fight that his brute strength is not going to win. He is not going to defeat Joker just by punching him out. Bruce spent his life trying to match the Joker punch for punch, logic for logic, and he always gets pulled deeper into the madness. But Terry takes a different path. Terry turns the Joker's game against him. And by mocking his arrogance and refusing to be intimidated by him, he actually strips away the Joker's power. And evil at its core, I think, thrives on a couple things, a lot of things. Silence is one of them, compliance, but a big one is fear.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone calls things out as they are and refuses to play the game, it actually begins to unravel. Now, how does that apply to us spiritually? I think there's a lot of times when we as Christians have a victim mentality that, oh, the enemy is just against me, and oh, God needs to help me and save me, and blah, blah, blah. And there is an element that is true to that. God does work on our behalf. I think God protects us from way more than we are aware of. I'll throw that out there. But there is an element of spiritual warfare, of just offensively living out your faith, that you need to flip the game a little bit. Instead of playing the game of, well, I need to try harder or I need to do more, there's sort of this element that requires us as followers of Jesus to flip the script and be like, to the enemy of our souls, look, one of us is going to die in the end. And by death, I mean eternal separation from God. One of us is going to die, and it's not going to be me. I am bought and paid for by the blood of Jesus Christ. I believe in his resurrection power. His Holy Spirit lives within me. And so, yeah, you might be able to distract me and bother me, but in the end, you lose. You really lose. And where I saw this is in James 4, verse 7. It says, submit yourselves then to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. And I think that idea of resisting is not just like running away, but it's also flipping the script. It's saying, look, there's a timeline here for you, bro. And it doesn't mean that I don't fight. What it means is I don't fight harder. I'm not going to defeat the enemy in my own strength.
Mm-hmm.
But I can refuse to be shaken. I can turn this into something for good. I can refuse to allow fear to be used against me. And sometimes I think victory is just reminding evil that it is damned to death. And it's not me. I've been bought and paid for by the blood of Jesus Christ. I am no longer an orphan. I am a child of God. I am beloved. I was paid for. I have value. Like, I need to start saying those things as offensive measures and to essentially put evil in its place. To say, there's a timeline here, and you've only got so long. The thing you're trying to do to me, to Christianity, to humankind as a whole, is to separate us from God. And you know what? Nothing can separate us from the love of God. I'm convinced. It talks about that in the New Testament. And so just, I saw that in the moment, and I was like, that's really interesting. And it shapes how I now play the game of my spiritual walk when it comes to evil in my life.
That's cool. Yeah, it's some really good stuff there. And actually, what I have kind of piggybacks on that a little bit. What stood out to me was this idea of legacy. Bruce talks about Terry being you've honored the legacy of Batman 100 times over. You were here when Gotham needed you most. Terry is kind of carrying on the mantle of Batman, and so that legacy lives through him. And it's kind of the same with the Joker. The Joker, kidnaps Tim and, brainwashes and tortures him into being his own legacy. The Joker's gang are the Joker's legacy. He couldn't let go of wanting to leave some kind of lasting legacy. So you have the two main characters of this movie kind of embodying what kind of legacy are we going to leave? And when you mention something like, I'm bought and paid for by the blood of Jesus, so that's who I represent. What kind of legacy are we leaving for Jesus? Like, what kind of representation are we? That legacy, and we see that in our world today, is so easily tarnished when you see things like Christian nationalism, people speaking the name of Jesus and doing the opposite of what he did and what he called us to do, and you just see that it just feels evil. Is that the legacy that we want to see left for Jesus, or is it our job now then to fight against that and show people what the true legacy is for people who love Christ, follow Christ, and are doing what he called us to do. The legacy that we need to leave needs to be one of loving our neighbor, welcoming the stranger, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, and not trying to find ways to ignore them or get rid of them or, pretend like these problems aren't happening. So we need to examine ourselves, we need to examine the world around us, and if we claim to follow Christ, then we need to say, what kind of legacy do I want to leave as somebody who says, I want to be like Jesus?
I love that. That's such a good thought. And I think what both of those, both your spiritual content and mine do for us is just provide perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so often it's just like, oh, it's me, it's my problems, it's my family, it's just very me focused. What this does is say, actually, there's a bigger picture here that I get to be a part of and I get to engage on a new level.
Yeah.
And I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. But
let's rate it.
Let's do it.
You first.
All right. Well, listen, I have a long history with this movie, with the show that it's based on, with the whole Bruce Timm universe. I have a deep love for it. I've always loved the Joker as a character. Look, it's got some weird problems, so it's not perfect, but I'm going with a Conroy minus. It's not perfect, but I think that it stands the test of time. I think that it's a cut above a lot of the other animated movies out of DC in general. I think it's a great part of the show, and that's where it stands for me.
Cool. I gave it a bail. It's good. I think the plot and some of the issues just very easily could have been written differently. And so it is not great. But it's really good. And so I give it a bail.
All right. That's fair. Totally fair.
What would you give it, audience? Let us know in the comments section on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and right here on good old YouTube. And if you are not subscribed here on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit that little notification bell so you stay up to date every time we post a new podcast.
New podcasts or the new shorts and reels, which you guys have been commenting on, which are great. Please keep doing that. We love getting to see those views and seeing you guys interact on there. So thank you very much for all of the love, hate, and everything else in between.
Christophany, take us out of here.
All right, kids, I want you to remember, don't be a drag and slag people. Be totally Shway instead. Love people, because kindness is punk rock.
That just kept going. Yours used to just be like, and remember, kids, don't do drugs. And now it's, as I turn to the third chapter of Second Apostle,
because they need to have a little more substance. And when you're writing these little one-liners, it's difficult. Listen. Your
no, it's not. It's not
your
the
synopses have been all over the place too.
I've been shortening them. How dare you? But yours have been. And remember, kids, blah 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 blah, and blah blah blah. It's like every time I think you're gonna end, you don't, and that's when I'm like, oh, he's still going. Don't
make me use this on you.